Obviously, everyone wants to improve their aim. The better your aim, the more consistent you are in gunfights, the more consistent you are, the more streaks you go on, and thus you're probably doing a lot better than most of the other players in your lobby. But going from not being able to hit the broadside of a barn to having insane accuracy is not something that just occurs overnight. Instead, by focusing on a few specific things, over time you can definitely improve your aim quite a bit, and that is exactly what we're breaking down here today. But before we jump into that, if you are new here, hey, hi, how you doing? We are always covering the latest Call of Duty news and intel right here on the channel, so if you do want to keep up to date with all of that, feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on, that way you'll always know when I upload a new video. And of course, if you enjoyed this one, let me know by dropping a like rating on it, as it would be much appreciated. And now let's get into a handful of tips to help you improve your aim here in Modern Warfare. So, starting us off for today, let's first take a look at something you'll actually see a lot of pros doing to get their aim on point before they play in a major tournament or even a qualifier, and that is warming up against bots. Now, you might think, how on earth is playing against bots going to make me better at the game? And in most cases, yeah, it's probably not, but improving your aim is an exception there, as just getting used to snapping onto targets back to back to back is going to seriously help when it comes to playing online against other real players. Essentially, that muscle memory and general reaction you have when targeting a player is going to end up being relayed from those private matches into the public matches, and with this you can obviously adjust the difficulty of said bots. You can always just have them on recruit, that way you are simply fine-tuning your aim and your ability to lock onto other players. Or if you want a bit more of a challenge, you can always up the bot's difficulty, even to veteran let's say, to more so simulate some realistic gunfights and get a better understanding of how you may want to approach certain engagements in-game. Then of course you'll want to be using your preferred weapon of choice, whatever that may end up being, and just play out a match or two of say free-for-all at the start of the day, that way you'll be quote-unquote warmed up for when you are jumping into some public matches. Like I said, this is something that you'll see a lot of pro players do before they play at tournaments, so it can definitely help in the long run when it comes to improving your accuracy and your aim in general. Moving on, another key thing that you can do to help improve your aim is to learn the recoil patterns of the weapons that you're using the most. Now this is something that we've talked about a bit before in the past, so if you are active on the channel you might already be familiar with this. But basically this game has a predictive recoil system, much like what we had back in Black Ops 4 as well, where every time you shoot a weapon continuously, it is going to have a nearly identical recoil pattern every single time. So as you'll notice, the MP7 when you shoot it has a pretty much vertical recoil, it kicks straight up into the air. So knowing that, you can very easily counter that recoil every time you go to shoot, and end up minimizing that kick by simply holding down on the stick or pulling back on your mouse accordingly. Same deal goes with every other weapon as well. For instance, the M13 kicks up and then takes a very hard right, so you can adjust accordingly when firing by knowing that beforehand, and on the Bison the recoil takes you up and slightly to the right. So just knowing where the recoil is going to take you naturally before engaging in a gunfight is going to allow you to properly counter said recoil and keep the weapon a bit steadier, and ultimately you should be able to land some more shots because of that. Now, most of the tips that we are covering here today stem from various things you can adjust or look into in-game, except for one, which I would say is one of the most impactful things that I've noticed over my years of playing Call of Duty, and that is using control freaks on my controllers. Now, I've been partnered with Control Freak for a few years now, and even before I was partnered with them, their thumbsticks were something I was always using because I honestly do think they make everything a lot more convenient. Basically, what Control Freaks do is allow you to get a better grip on your thumbstick, while also offering an increased range of motion in some cases as well. So you are actually able to be a bit more accurate because of that. Now personally, I am a very big fan of the Vortex Control Freaks, as they offer a mixed height combination with one concave stick that is 5.6 millimeters in height, and also one convex stick that is 11.3 millimeters in height. So on my aiming stick, the right stick, I use the convex one for that increased range of motion, and then on my left stick I use the concave one for better grip and overall enhanced control. Now, like I said, I've been using Control Freaks for years, and the science behind improving your aim simply by adding some height and texture to your thumbstick is pretty cool in my opinion, and Control Freak actually hit me up and wanted to hook you guys up with some special Cyber Monday bonuses. So from now until the end of December 3rd, you can actually use code IMMORTAL to get 30% off the Vortex and all other Control Freak products, as opposed to the normal 10% discount. So if you are interested, be sure to check out that link down below. But yeah, Control Freak thumbsticks have definitely helped me improve my aim over time, so I really felt like I needed to mention those within this video. Continuing on though, the next few things you can do to improve your aim all revolve around tweaking various settings in the game that impact your accuracy and your aim in general in one way or another. The first thing here is going to be controller vibration, and I know some of you are probably saying, what? How does controller vibration affect my aim? And in all honesty, it's not necessarily a huge nuisance, but personally I think having your controller vibrate while you're trying to lock onto a target, especially at longer distances, can actually hinder your ability to keep your aim steady as your controller is sat there shaking around in your hands. So with that said, I would highly recommend turning controller vibration off to maximize your steadiness when aiming down sights. After that, of course, when we are talking about aiming, we can't forgo bringing up aim assist, which for obvious reasons is going to make your aim better 99.9% of the time. Sometimes there will be that odd one-off situation where your aim assist drags a little too much, but having aim assist in general is really going to help your aim improve, especially if you are maybe a little newer to Call of Duty or this game specifically. Now, with that out of the way, the aim assist setting that I would recommend is simply going to be the standard option, as it is going to feel the most natural and the least overwhelming in most cases. After experimenting around with both the precision and the focusing options, both of them felt a bit too clunky for me compared to what I was used to as someone who's been playing Call of Duty every single year. So keeping on that standard option, in my opinion, is going to yield the most natural and ultimately the best results. Then for the last setting specific tip, this one is another pretty common one when it comes to improving your aim, and that is finding the right sensitivity. Now, we've talked about this a few times in the past, so to keep it brief, basically finding a nice middle ground of being quick enough to snap onto enemies close range, yet being able to keep a steady hand in long distance fights is going to be key to improving your accuracy and your aim. So personally, I sit comfortably at a 7.6 or an 8.7 horizontal and vertical sensitivity with a 0.8 ADS sense to allow my ADS aim to be a bit more precise. We also briefly have to touch on the advantage that using certain optics has when it comes to bettering your aim, as a lot of the time, the stock iron sights on most weapons really are not ideal for a variety of engagements, whereas certain optics like the Viper Reflex, the LP945 Mini Reflex, and even the GI Mini Reflex are three that personally I find help a lot with staying on target more consistently. Also, while we are on the topic of attachments, obviously using certain recoil-friendly attachments is also going to help you greatly when it comes to staying on target. So things like the muzzle brake and compensator, various barrels, and certain underbarrels and rear grips are all going to come in handy in this case. So just definitely be aware of what attachments you're using on certain setups, as they can play a very big role in how easy or how difficult it is to remain accurate. Then finally, one last thing you can do to help improve your aim is focus more on tap firing versus simply going full auto. On most weapons, it's the best to normally go full auto and just hold down the trigger when you are in those close to medium range fights. However, the recoil is going to be the most noticeable in those long range engagements, so there, tap firing can oftentimes lead to you hitting more shots in a shorter amount of time, since you don't have to necessarily correct the weapon's kick as much. Obviously, you will have to be the judge of when to tap fire and when to just go in guns a-blazing, but using a mix of both strategies is going to equate to some easier kills in all different types of engagements. So with all of that being said, those are effectively the best ways you can improve your aim here in Modern Warfare, and that is going to wrap things up for today. If you found the video helpful, or if you just simply enjoyed it, let me know by dropping a like rating on it, as it would be much appreciated. And of course, if you are new here and you want to stay up to date with everything going on in the world of Call of Duty, including all the latest news and intel, updates and leaks, and pretty much everything else in between, feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on. That way you'll always know when I post a new video. In case you missed it, we just launched my very first ever merch design with a few different colorways available to choose from, so if you do want to rep the brand, definitely be sure to check that out down below. Also, as I mentioned earlier, from now until the end of December 3rd, code IMMORTAL will get you 30% off any Control Freak products, so feel free to take advantage of that while it's active. Once again, thanks so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.